Here, the United States federal government is a representative democracy. In this federal government, we have three branches: the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch. Each of these branches has its own power and role in the United States government. So, what are these branches, and what is their purpose and goal? Today, I will tell you the importance of each, the role in the government, and why they were created. The first branch I will talk about today is the executive branch of the federal government. It is probably the most familiar to most of you guys. It is known as the powerhouse of the government, as it is composed of the president, vice president, and the cabinet. These offices are composed of 24 members, and the executive branch employs nearly 4 million Americans per year. These 4 million Americans are employed in federal agencies across the United States, as well as the armed forces. So, what is the importance of the executive branch? According to National Geographic, the importance of the executive branch is to enforce the laws of the nation. It is the branch of the president, as the president is the head of the branch, and the president can sign bills into law. As well as signing bills into law, the president can also veto laws that he does not like or deems unconstitutional. The role of the president in the executive branch is to appoint federal judges, as well as other federal officials into office. The head of the branch is the president. The president is elected every 4 years, and the next election will be in 2024. The current president of the United States is Joseph Biden. The next branch I'll talk about today is the legislative branch. They make and pass laws for the nation. So, what is the legislative branch composed of? It is composed of two different parts. The first part, each part is known as a chamber. The first chamber, known as the Senate. The Senate is composed of 100 members, and these members are elected every 6 years. The Senate has elections every 2 years, and about 1/3 of the senators are up for re-election every 2 years. Next chamber is known as the House of Representatives. They are composed of 435 members, and they are elected every 2 years. Together, these two chambers are known as Congress, and Congress contains 535 total members. So, according to the official White House website, the legislative branch has sole power to declare war, enact legislation, and confirm presidential appointments, as well as investigating powers. The importance of the branch is that it's the only branch of the United States government that can create and pass laws for the nation. As well as passing laws, they create the annual budget, and they hold power for declaration of war. The next branch of the United States government is the judicial branch. The judicial branch is a system of federal courts as well as a system of federal judges. So what is it? It's the judiciary part of the United States government. It is made up of the Supreme Court, the Federal Court of Appeals, also known as the Appellate Court, and the Federal District Court. It is independent of the executive and legislative branch, and these judges can only be removed by impeachment. The importance of the judicial branch is that it contains the Supreme Court. Members of the Supreme Court are appointed by the president and can only be removed from impeachment or until they retire. The Supreme Court and the entire judiciary branch is there to interpret the law and apply these interpretations into the Constitution. They hold sole power of interpretation in the United States federal government. According to History.com, they decide if the law is constitutional or not. The head of the branch is the Supreme Court. So, now that we know all three branches of the United States government, how do they work together and make sure the government is doing as it should be? They do this through a system of checks and balances, known as the balance of power. No branch is more powerful than the other, and this is shown through the checks and balances. The legislative branch has the same power as the executive. The executive branch has the same power as the judicial branch, and the judicial branch has the same power as the legislative branch. Each branch is equal to the other in its own right. This system makes sure that the government works the way that it was intended for when it was created during the Constitutional Convention in 1787. So, a couple examples of how each one is equal to each other. The judicial review. Judges can declare if a law is constitutional or not, but these judges can only be appointed by the President of the United States. That ensures that the executive branch and the judicial branch are equal to each other and one is not more powerful than the other. Next, the legislative branch. The legislative branch can impeach members of the executive or judicial branch if they feel they are not doing their job correctly. Another example, the legislative branch can create laws, but the president can veto the law. This ensures that the legislative branch is not passing unjust laws and that the executive branch has the same power as the legislative branch. The last example is the presidential branch is the head of the military, yet only Congress and the legislative branch can declare war for the United States. So, thank you for coming today, and hopefully you have learned how the United States government works in each of the three branches and the role that they have in the government.